take my coffee cup? Was it here when I started? I thought it was right there. Go with the coffee cup. It must be on the table. Let's go. Sit down. Shabbat Shalom. Tonight's parasha, Metzora, Leper. Tonight's readings will be Leviticus 14:1 to 15:33, 2 Kings in the Haftarah, 2 Kings 7:3 to 20, Malachi 3:4 to 24, the Brit Hadashah, Matthew 8:1 to 17, and Mark 5:24 to 34, and Luke 9:51 to 10:42, Romans 6:9 to 23, Hebrews 13:1 to 5. And we'll begin with prayer. You should have got it earlier. There was some cookies and cream. They finished it. See, I'll tell you, I finished feeling. Nick and Chris had most of them. Oh, thanks. Did you get him ZT on? It's like 2 of them. Oh, no, double whip. No shot, no. Blessed are you, Yahweh, our God, sovereign King of the universe. You nourish the whole world in goodness, with grace and kindness and compassion. You give bread to all flesh, for your mercy endures forever. And through your great goodness, we've never lacked, nor will we ever lack for food, shelter, clothing. Even the monetary needs, all the needs of the day are met with you, our Father. Yehovah Yireh, you are our provider. Yahweh Yireh. And all this for the sake of your great name, Aleph Tavet, for you alone are Elohim, our God. You alone nourish and sustain all and do good to all, and prepare food for all of your creatures which you have created. Blessed are you, Abba Yahweh. You nourish all. B'Shem Yeshua. Amen. Baruch atah Yahweh Eloheinu melech haolam hamaver shana mi'anaya ufernama mi'afapaya v'hirasan mefayaka Abba Yahweh Eloheinu v'lachei avatenu shetar gerle inu b'torek tek ha v'debekenu mitzvot ha v'yel tavienu lo ladai chet v'lo ladai avara v'yavan v'lo ladai nisayan v'lo ladai v'ziyan v'yel tishlet benu yetzer hara b'shem Yeshua. Amen. Blessed are you, Abba Yahweh, our God, sovereign King of the universe. You remove sleep from our eyes and slumber from our eyelids. May it be your will, Yahweh, our God, and the God of our fathers, to accustom us to your Torah and attach us to your mitzvah. And do not lead us into the hands of sin, nor into the hands of pride or perversity, nor into the hands of temptation, nor into the hands of shame. And do not let evil inclination rule over us in the name of Yeshua. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Yahweh Eloheinu melech haolam asher natun lanu et derech Yeshua Mashiach. Yeshua Baruch Hu. Amen. Blessed are you, Abba Yahweh, our God, sovereign King of the universe. You gave us the way of salvation through Mashiach Yahuwah. Yeshua, blessed be He. Amen. Baruch Abba Yahweh, Yom Yom Ya'amos Lanu Ha-El Yeshua Tenu, B'Shem Yeshua. Blessed be Yahweh, our Father, who daily carries our burdens, the God of our salvation. In the name of Yeshua, B'Shem Yeshua. Amen. Blessed are you, Abba Yahweh, our God, sovereign King of the universe. You have sanctified us with your commandments and commanded us to engross ourselves with the words of Torah. Please, Abba Yahweh, our God, sweeten the words of your Torah in our mouths and in the mouths of your people Israel. May we and our offspring, the offspring of your people, the whole house of Israel, may we all together know your name and study your Torah for the sake of fulfilling your desire. Blessed are you, Yahweh, you teach Torah to your people. Blessed are you, Abba Yahweh, our God, sovereign King of the universe. You chose us from among the nations and gave us the Torah. Blessed are you, Abba Yahweh, giver of the Torah. May the Lord bless you and keep watch over you. May the Lord make his presence to enlighten you. May Yahweh be kind to you. May Yahweh bestow favor upon you and grant you shalom, shalom, peace. B'Shem Yeshua, amen. It's very quiet. Tonight's first reading, Leviticus 14:1 to 15:33, the Torah parasha. Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, "This shall be the law for the leprous person, for the day of his cleansing. He shall be brought to the priest, and the priest shall go out of the camp, and the priest shall look. Then, if the case of leprous disease is healed in the leprous person, the priest shall command them to take for him, who is to be cleansed, 2 live clean birds, and cedar wood, and a scarlet yarn, and hyssop. And the priest shall command them to kill one of the birds in an earthenware vessel over fresh water. And he shall take the live bird with the cedar wood, and the scarlet yarn and the hyssop, and dip them, and the live bird, in the blood of the bird that was killed over the fresh water. And he shall sprinkle it 7 times on him who is to be cleansed of the leprous disease. Then he shall pronounce him clean, and shall let the living bird go into the open field. And he who is to be cleansed shall wash his clothes and shave off all of his hair and bathe himself in water, and he shall be clean. And after that he may come into the camp, but live outside his tent 7 days. And on the 7th day he shall shave off all of his hair from his head and his beard and his eyebrows. He shall shave off all of his hair. Then he shall wash his clothes and bathe his body in water, and he shall be clean. On the 8th day he shall take 2 male lambs without blemish, and 1 ewe lamb, a year-old without blemish, and a grain offering, and 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil, and 1 log of oil. And the priest who cleanses him shall set the man who is to be cleansed and these things before Yahweh at the entrance of the tent of meeting. And the priest shall take one of the male lambs and offer it for a guilt offering, along with a lot of oil, and wave them for a wave offering before Yahweh. And he shall kill the lamb in the place where they kill the sin offering and the burnt offering, in the place of the sanctuary, for the guilt offering. Like the sin offering belongs to the priest, it is most sanctified. And the priest shall take some of the blood of the guilt offering, and the priest shall put it on the lobe of the right ear of him who is to be cleansed, and the thumb of his right hand, and the big toe of his right foot. And then the priest shall take some of the log of oil and pour it into the palm of his left hand, and dip his right finger, in the oil that was in his left hand, and sprinkle some oil with his finger 7 times before Yahweh. And some of that oil that remains in his hand the priest shall put on the lobe of the right ear of him who is to be cleansed, and on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot, and on top of the blood of the guilt offering. And the rest of the oil that is in the priest's hand he shall put on the head of him who is to be cleansed. And the priest shall make atonement before Yahweh. And the priest shall offer the sin offering, and make atonement for him who is to be cleansed from his uncleanness. And afterward he shall kill the burnt offering, and the priest shall offer the burnt offering and the grain offering on the altar. Thus the priest shall make atonement for him, and he shall be clean. But if he is poor and he cannot afford so much, then he shall take 1 male lamb for the guilt offering to be waved, to make atonement for him, and 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil for a grain offering, and a lot of oil. Also 2 turtle doves and 2 pigeons, whichever he can afford. One shall be a sin offering, the other a burnt offering. And on the 8th day he shall bring them for his cleansing to the priest, to the entrance of the tent of meeting before Yahweh. And the priest shall take the lamb of the guilt offering and the lot of oil, and the priest shall wave them for a wave offering before Yahweh. Then he shall kill the lamb of the guilt offering, and the priest shall take some of the blood of the guilt offering, and put it on the lobe of the right ear of him who is to be cleansed, and on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. And the priest shall pour some of the oil into the palm of his own left hand, and he shall sprinkle with his right finger some of the oil that is in the left hand 7 times before Yahweh. And the priest shall put some of the oil that is in the left hand on the lobe of the right ear of him who is to be cleansed, and on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot, in the place where the blood of the guilt offering was put. And the rest of the oil that is in the priest's hand he shall put on the head of him who is to be cleansed, to make atonement for him before Yahweh. And he shall offer of the turtle doves or pigeons, whichever he can afford, one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering, along with the grain offering. The priest shall make atonement before Yahweh for him who is to be cleansed. And this is the law for him in whom is a case of leprous disease, who cannot afford the offerings for his cleansing. Yahweh spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, when you come into the land of Canaan, which I give you for a possession, I will put a case of leprous disease in a house in the land of your possession. Then he who owns the house shall come and tell the priest, there seems to be a case of disease in my house. And then the priest shall command they empty the house before the priest goes in to examine the disease, lest that all that is in the house be declared unclean. And afterward the priest shall go inside to see the house, and he shall examine the disease. And if the disease is in the walls of the house with the greenish or reddish spots, if it appears deeper than the surface, then the priest shall go out of the house to the door of the house and shut it up 7 days. And the priest shall come again on the 7th day and look. If the disease has spread in the walls of the house, then the priest shall command that they take out the stones in which is the disease, and throw them into an unclean place outside of the city. And he shall have the inside of the house scraped all around about, and the plaster that they scrape off they shall pour out in an unclean place outside of the city. Then they shall take other stones and put them in the place of those stones, and he shall take other plaster and plaster the house. If the disease breaks out in the house again, after he has taken out the stones and scraped the house and replastered it, then the priest shall go and look, and if the disease is spread in the house, it is a persistent leprous disease in the house. It is unclean. Then he shall break down the house, its stones and its timbers and all the plaster in the house, and shall carry them outside of the city to an unclean place. Moreover, whoever enters the house while it is shut up shall be unclean until evening, and whoever sleeps in the house shall wash his clothes, and whoever eats in the house shall wash his clothes. But if the priest comes and looks, and the disease has not spread in the house, after the house was plastered, then the priest shall pronounce the house clean, for the disease was healed. And for the cleansing of the house he shall take 2 small birds, with cedar wood and scarlet yarn and hyssop, And he shall kill one of the birds in an earthen vessel over fresh water. And then he shall take the cedar wood and the hyssop and the scarlet yarn along with the live bird and dip them in the blood of the bird that was killed, and in the fresh water, and sprinkle the house 7 times. And thus shall he cleanse the house with the blood of the bird and the fresh water, and with the live bird and the cedar wood and hyssop and scarlet yarn. And he shall let the live bird go out of the city in an open country, and he shall make atonement for the house, and it shall be clean. And this is the law for any case of leprous disease, for an itch, for a leprous disease in a garment or in a house, and for the swelling or an eruption of a spot, to show when it is unclean and when it is clean. And this is the law for a leprous disease. Yahweh spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, Speak to the people of Israel, and say to them, When any man has a discharge from his body, his discharge is unclean. And this is the law of the uncleanness for a discharge, whether his body runs with the discharge or his body is blocked up by this discharge. It is uncleanliness. Every bed on which one with the discharge lies shall be unclean, and everything on which he sits shall be unclean. And anyone who touches his bed shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until evening. And whoever sits on anything on which the one with the discharge sat shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until evening. And whoever touches the body of the one with the discharge shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until evening. And if the one with the discharge spits on someone who is clean, then he shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until evening. And any saddle on which the one with the discharge rides shall be unclean. Whoever touches anything that was under him shall be unclean until evening. And whoever carries such things shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until evening. Anyone with whom the discharge touches without having rinsed his hands in water shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until evening. And any earthenware vessel that the one with the discharge touches shall be broken, and every vessel of wood shall be rinsed in water. And when one with a discharge is cleansed of his discharge, then he shall count for himself 7 days for his cleansing, and wash his clothes, and he shall bathe himself in fresh water, and be clean. On the 8th day he shall take 2 turtle doves and 2 pigeons and come before Yahweh to the entrance of the tent of meeting, and give them to the priest. And the priest shall use them, one for his sin offering and one for the burnt offering. And the priest shall make atonement for him before Yahweh for his discharge. If a man has an emission of semen, he shall bathe his whole body in water, and be unclean until evening. And every garment and every skin on which the semen comes shall be washed with water, and be unclean until evening. If a man lies with a woman and has an emission of semen, both of them shall bathe themselves in water, and be unclean until evening. When a woman has a discharge in her body is blood. She shall be in her menstrual impurity for 7 days, and whoever touches her shall be unclean until evening. And everything on which she lies during her menstrual impurity shall be unclean. Everything also on which she sits shall be unclean. And whoever touches her bed shall wash their clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until evening. And anyone who touches anything on which she sits shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until evening. Whether it be the bed or anything on which she sits, whether he touches it, shall be unclean until evening. If any man lies with her, and her menstrual impurity comes upon him, he shall be unclean 7 days, and every bed on which he lies shall be unclean. If a woman has a discharge of blood for many days, not at the time of her menstrual impurity, or she has a discharge beyond the time of her impurity, all the days of the discharge shall continue in uncleanliness. As in the days of her impurity she shall be unclean. Every bed in which she lies, and all the days of her discharge shall be to her as the bed of her impurity, and everything on which she sits down shall be unclean, as the uncleanliness of her menstrual impurity. And whoever touches these things shall be unclean, and shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until evening. But if she is cleansed of her discharge, she shall count for herself 7 days, and after that she shall be clean. And on the 8th day she shall take 2 turtle doves or 2 pigeons, and bring them unto the priest at the entrance of the tent of meeting. And the priest shall use these for a sin offering, and the other for a burnt offering. And the priest shall make atonement for her before Yahweh for her unclean discharge. Thus shall you keep the people of Israel separate from their uncleanliness, lest they die in their uncleanliness by defiling my tabernacle that is in their midst. And this is the law for him who has a discharge, and for him who has an emission of semen, becoming unclean thereby. Also for her who is unwell with her menstrual impurity, that is, for any male or female who has a discharge, and for the man who lies with a woman who is unclean. 2 Kings 7:3-20. Now there were 4 men who were lepers at the entrance to the gate. And they said one to another, Why are we sitting here until we die? If we say, let us enter the city, the famine is in the city, and we shall die there. And if we sit here, we shall also die. So come now, let us go over to the camp of the Syrians. If they spare our lives, we shall live. And if they kill us, we shall but die. So they arose at twilight to go into the camp of the Syrians. But when they came to the edge of the camp of the Syrians, behold, there was no one there. For Yahweh had made the army of the Syrians hear the sound of chariots and horses, the sound of a great army. So that they said to one another, behold, the king of Israel has hired against us the kings of the Hittites and the kings of Egypt to come against us. So they fled away in the twilight and abandoned their tents and their horses and their donkeys, leaving the camp as it was, and fled for their lives. And when these lepers came into the edge of the camp, they went into the tent, and they ate and they drank, and they carried off silver and gold and clothing, and went and hid them. And then they came back and entered another tent, and carried off things from it, and went and hid them. And then they said to one another, we are not doing right. This day is the day of good news. If we are silent and wait until the morning light, punishment will overtake us. Now therefore come, let us go into the king's household. So they came and called the gatekeepers to the city and told them, we came to the camp of the Syrians, and behold, there was no one to be seen or heard there, nothing but horses tied and donkeys tied, and tents as they were. Then the gatekeepers called out, and it was told to the king's household, and the king rose up in the night and all his servants. I will tell you what the Syrians have done to us. They know that we are hungry, and therefore they have gone out of the camp to hide themselves in the open country, thinking, when they come out of the city, we shall take them alive and get into the city. And one of his servants said, let some men take 5 of the remaining horses, seeing that those who are left here will fare like the whole multitude of Israel, who have already perished. Let us send and see. So they took 2 horsemen, and the king sent them after the army of the Syrians, saying, go and see. And so they went after them as far as Jordan. And behold, all the way was littered with garments and equipment that the Syrians had thrown away in their haste. And the messengers returned and told the king. Then the people went out to plunder the camp of the Syrians. So a seah of fine flour was sold for a shekel, and 2 seahs of barley for a shekel, according to the word of Yahweh. Now the king had appointed a captain, on whose hand he learned to have charge of the gate. And the people trampled him in the gate, so that he died, as the man of Elohim had said when the king came down to him. For when the man of Elohim had said to the king, 2 seahs of barley shall be sold for a shekel, and a seah of fine flour for a shekel, about this time tomorrow, in the gate of Samaria, the captain had answered the man of Elohim, if Yahweh himself should make widows in heaven, could such a thing be? And he said, you shall see it with your own eyes, but you shall not eat of it. And so it happened to him, for the people trampled him in the gate, and he died. Malachi 3:4-24. Then the offering of Judah and Jerusalem would be pleasing to the Lord, Yahweh, as in the days of old, and as in the former years. And then I will draw near to you for a judgment, and I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers, and against the adulterers, and against those who swear falsely, and against those who oppress the hired worker in his wages, the widow and the fatherless, against those who thrust aside the sojourner, and do not fear me, says Yahweh of hosts. For I, Yahweh, do not change, therefore you, O children of Jacob, are not consumed. From the days of your fathers you have turned aside from my statutes, and you have not kept them. Return to me, and I will return to you, says Yahweh of hosts. But you say, how shall we return? Will a man rob Elohim? Yet you are robbing me. You say, how have we robbed you? In your tithes and in your contributions. You are cursed with a curse, for you are robbing me, the whole nation of you. Bring the full tithe into the storehouse, that there might be food in my house, and thereby put me to the test, says Yahweh of hosts, if I will not open the windows of heaven for you, and pour down for you a blessing until there is no more need. I will rebuke the devourer for you, so that it will not destroy the fruits of your soil, and your vine in the field shall not fail to bear, says Yahweh of hosts. Then all the nations will call you blessed, for you will be a land of delight, says Yahweh of hosts. Your words have been hard against me, says Yahweh. But you say, how have we spoken against you? You have said it is vain to serve Elohim. What is the profit of keeping his charge, or of walking as in mourning before Yahweh of hosts. And now we call the arrogant blessed, and evildoers not only prosper, but they put Elohim to the test, and they escape. Then those who feared Yahweh spoke with one another, and Yahweh paid attention and heard them. And a book of remembrance was written before them of those who feared Yahweh and esteemed his name. They shall be mine, says Yahweh of hosts, and in the day when I make up my treasured possession, I will spare them, as a rich man spares his sons who serve him. Then once more you shall see the distinction between the righteous and the wicked, between one who serves Elohim and one who does not serve him. Matthew chapter 8, 1 to 17. And when he came down from the mountain, great crowds followed him. And behold, a leper came unto him and knelt before him, saying, Adonai, if you will, you can make me clean. And Yeshua stretched out his hand and touched him, saying, I will, be clean. And immediately his leprosy was cleansed. And Yeshua said to him, see that you say nothing to anyone, but go and show yourself to the priest and offer the gift that Moshe commanded, for a proof to them. When he had entered Capernaum, a centurion came forward, appealing to him. Adonai, my servant is lying paralyzed at home, suffering terribly. And he said to him, I will come and heal him. But the centurion replied, Adonai, I am not worthy to have you come under my roof, but only say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I too am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. And I say to one, go, and he goes, and to another, come, and he comes, and to my servant, do this, and this he does. When Yeshua heard this, he marveled and said to those that followed him, truly I tell you, with no one in Israel have I found such faith. I tell you, many will come from the east and from the west, and recline at the table with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven, while the sons of the kingdom will be thrown into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And to the centurion Yeshua said, go, let it be done for you as you have believed. And the servant was healed at that very moment. And when Yeshua entered into Peter's house, he saw his mother-in-law lying sick with a fever, and he touched her hand, and the fever left her, and she rose up and began to serve him. That evening they brought to him many who were oppressed by demons, and he cast out the spirits with a word, and healed all who were sick. This was to fulfill what was spoken by the prophet Ishayahu. He took our illnesses and bore our diseases and infirmities. By his stripes we are healed. Mark 5, 24 to 34. And a great crowd followed him and thronged him about. And there was a woman who had a discharge of blood for 12 years, who had suffered much under many physicians, and she spent all the money she had, and was no better for it, but rather grew worse. And she had heard reports about Yeshua, and so she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his garment. She said within herself, if I touch even his tzitzit, I will be made well. And immediately the flow of blood dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed from her disease. And Yeshua perceived in himself that power had gone out from him, and immediately turned about in the crowd and said, who touched my garment? And his disciples said to him, you see the crowd pressing around you, and you say, who touched me? And he looked around to see who had done it. But the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came in fear and trembling and fell down before him and told him the whole truth. And he said to her, daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your disease. Luke 9, 51 to 10:42. And when the days drew near for him to be taken up, he set his face to go to Jerusalem. And he sent messengers ahead of him, who went and entered the village of the Samaritans to make preparations for him. But the people did not receive him, because his face was set toward Jerusalem. And when his disciples James and John saw it, they said, Adonai, do you want us to tell fire to come down from heaven and consume them? But he turned and rebuked them. And they went on to another village. And as they were going along on the road, someone said to him, I will follow you wherever you go. And Yeshua said to him, Foxes have holes, and birds of the air have nests, but the son of Adam has nowhere to lay his head to rest. And to another he said, Follow me. But he said, Adonai, let me first go and bury my father. And Yeshua said to him, Leave the dead to bury their own dead. As for you, go and proclaim the kingdom of Elohim. Yet another said, I will follow you, Adonai. But first, let me say farewell to those at my home. And Yeshua said to him, No one who puts his hand to the plow and then looks back is fit for the kingdom of Elohim. After this, Adonai appointed the 72 others and sent them on ahead of him, 2 by 2, into every town and every place where he himself was about to go. And he said to them, The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore pray earnestly to Adonai our Father of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest. Yahuwah Shavuot. Go your way, and behold, I am sending you out as lambs in the midst of wolves. Carry no money bag, no knapsack, no sandals, and greet no one on the road. Whatever house you enter in, first say, Shalom unto this house, peace. And if a son of peace is there, your peace will rest upon him. But if not, it will return to you and remain in the same house, eating and drinking what they provide. For the laborer deserves his wages. Do not go from house to house. Whenever you enter in a town and they receive you, eat what is set before you. Heal the sick and say to them, The kingdom of Elohim has come to near you. Whenever you enter into a town and they do not receive you, go into its streets and say, Even the dust of your town that clings to our feet we wipe off against you. Nevertheless, know this, that the kingdom of Elohim has come near. I tell you, it will be more bearable on that day for Sodom than for that town. Woe unto you, Chorazin! Woe unto you, Bethsaida! For if the mighty works done in you had been done in Tyre and Sidon, they would have repented long ago, sitting in sackcloth and ashes. But it will be more bearable in the judgment for Tyre and Sidon than for you. And you, Capernaum, will you be exalted to heaven, Capernaum? You shall be brought down to Hades. To one who hears you, the one who hears you hears me, and the one who rejects you rejects me, and the one who rejects me rejects him who sent me. The 72 returned with joy, saying, Adonai, even the demons are subject to us in your name. And he said to him, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. Behold, I have given you authority to tread on serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy nothing shall hurt you. Nevertheless, do not rejoice in this, that the spirits are subject to you, but rejoice that your names are written in heaven. And in that same hour he rejoiced in the Ruach HaKodesh and said, Thank you, Father, Abba Yahuwah, of heaven and earth, that you have hidden these things from the wise and understanding that is revealed to them, to little children. Yes, Abba Yahuwah, for such was your gracious will. All things have been handed over to me by my Father, and no one knows who the Son is except for the Father, or who the Father is except for the Son. Anyone to whom the Son chooses to reveal him, he will reveal him. And then turning to his disciples, he said privately, Blessed are the eyes that see what you see. For I tell you that many prophets and kings desired to see what you see, and did not see it, and to hear what you hear, and did not hear it. And behold, a lawyer stood up and put him to the test, saying, Teacher, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? He said to him, What is written in the law? How do you read it? And he answered, You shall love Yahuwah, your Elohim, your God, with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. And he said to him, You have answered correctly. Do this, and you will live. But he, desiring to justify himself, said to Yeshua, Well, who is my neighbor? And Yeshua replied, A man was going from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he fell among robbers, who stripped him and beat him, and then departed, leaving him half dead. Now by chance a priest was going down that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. And so likewise a Levite. When he came to the place and saw him, he passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he journeyed along, came to where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion. And he went to him, and he bound up his wounds, and pouring oil and wine on them, And then he set him on his own animal and brought him to an inn to take care of him. And the next day he took out 2 denarii, and he gave them to the innkeeper, saying, "Take care of him, and whatever more you spend, I will repay you when I come back this way." Which of these 3 do you think provided or proved to be a neighbor to the man who fell among the robbers? And he said, "The one who showed him mercy." And Yeshua said to him, "You go and do likewise." Now as they went on their way, Yeshua entered a village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. And she had a sister named Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet, at Adonai's feet, listening to his teaching. But Martha was distracted with much serving. And she went up to him and said, "Adonai, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her then to help me." But Adonai answered her, "Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled about so many things, but one thing is necessary. Mary has chosen the good portion, which will not be taken away from her." Romans 6:9 and 23. We know that Hamashiach, being raised from the dead, will never die again. Death no longer has dominion over him. For the death he died to sin once and for all. But the life he lives to Elohim. So you also must consider yourselves dead to sin and alive to Elohim in Yeshua HaMashiach. Let not sin therefore reign in your mortal body, to make you obey its passions. Do not present your members to sin as instruments for unrighteousness, but present yourselves to God as those who have been brought from death to life, and your members to God as instruments for righteousness. For sin will have no dominion over you, since you are not under the law, but under grace. What then? Are we to sin because we are not under the law, but under grace? By no means. Do you not know that if you present yourselves to anyone as obedient slaves, then you are slaves to whom you obey, either sin, which leads to death, or of obedience, which leads to righteousness? But thanks be to God, that you who were once slaves of sin have become obedient from the heart to the standard of teaching to which you were committed, and have been set free from sin and become slaves of righteousness. I am speaking in human terms because of your natural limitations. For just as you once presented your members as slaves to impurity and lawlessness, leading to more lawlessness, so now present your members as slaves to righteousness, leading to sanctification. For when you were slaves of sin, you were free in regard to righteousness. But what fruit were you getting at that time from the things which you are now ashamed? For the end of those things is death. But now you have been set free from sin and have become slaves of God. The fruit you get leads to sanctification, and its end to eternal life. For the wages of sin is death, but the free gift of God is eternal life in Yeshua HaMashiach, our Adonai, our Lord. Hebrews 13:1-5. Let brotherly love continue. Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares. Remember those who are in prison, as though in prison with them, and those who are mistreated, since you also are in the body. Let marriage be held in honor among all, and let the marriage bed be undefiled, for Elohim will judge the sexually immoral and the adulterous. Keep your life free from love of money, and be content with what you have, for he has said, I will never leave you or forsake you. Abba Yahweh, open thou our eyes that we may behold the wondrous teachings in your word. Guide us into all wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of all things of heaven and of earth. In Yeshua's name we pray. Baruch atah, Abba Yahweh Elohim melech ha'olam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'shayei alom natabekenu. Baruch atah Adonai Yahweh, naton ha'Torah, b'shem Yeshua, Amen. Blessed are you, Father Yahweh, our God, sovereign King of the universe, you gave us the Torah of truth and set everlasting life in our midst. Blessed are you, Abba Yahweh, giver of the Torah. In Yeshua's name we pray. Amen. This ends our Torah parasha for this evening, Friday, April 15th, 2016. We apologize for the delay with technical difficulties. We hope you all have a safe and wonderful Shabbos. Abide in his love and shalom, shalom.